welcome back everyone to Jersey Beach Volley Podcast. I'm your host, Rohan Chatella, and today we're joined by Nick Fusilli. On this episode, we take a deep dive into Nick's background, including some of his crazy stories growing up, all the way to how he became part owner of New Jersey's first indoor beach volleyball facility. We also take a stop on Snack Island, appropriately so, because as we all know, Nick is the king of snacks on the beach. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got Nick Fusilli. So, Nick, thanks again for joining us. How's it going?
No problem, man. Happy to finally get on this after hearing your success the last couple of weeks.
Oh man, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know if we're fully successful yet, but we're just making our way along, and we're getting lots of good stories. So it has been a fun ride. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. So I know coronavirus and quarantine and everything has just been, it's been stressful for a lot of people. And for me, some of my days are just really long, and then some days are super busy. Some days I'm kind of busy with work, and some days I'm trying to figure out what should I do with my free time. And I've been trying to just pick up random hobbies and those kinds of things. Have you been looking at anything fun or interesting recently that's been catching your attention?
I mean, a lot of my time when this first started was focused on making sure Highline was okay. Because as one of the owners, that really was my main concern, to make sure volleyball for New Jersey can continue year round. So after I got that taken care of, I'm in the boring routine. I work a little bit, come home, work out, eat dinner, go to bed, repeat.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, really hoping that the weather honestly hasn't even been that nice to really. I mean, I can go walk to the beach, but it's not warm enough to go there. So
yeah, that's true. The reason I ask is just because I feel like I've seen a lot of posts on social media or whatever it is. People are saying this is the time to get a new skill or a new language, all those kinds of things. But not everyone has the time to do that, and also not everyone has the ability to do that. So it's just what are people doing with their free time right now? So if you're relaxing and enjoying, that's totally fine too.
I mean, hey, I cleaned my house, I organized things, and that was things that didn't get done for a while. So let's just say my house will be ready for summer.
There you go. I mean, we're approaching summer fast, and hopefully we have a summer.
Exactly.
And I think we're all looking forward to that.
Yep.
That'll be nice.
Yeah, Point Pleasant Mayor was the first one to announce a plan to make sure that the beaches were open. So
interesting. Okay,
it looks like that'll put us in a good place for the summer, at least from a hope perspective.
Yeah, that's all we can hold on to right now. So
exactly.
All right, let's dive into it. All right.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. So usually when I start my podcast, I always like to talk about early life and its impact on the guests. So if you don't mind starting off, could you tell me a little bit about your background, where you're from, and what was life like growing up for you?
I grew up in South Wall in Monmouth County. I lived, I'm 7 minutes from the beach tops. That was the farthest I've been my whole life. So, growing up, I played every sport you could think of pretty much. I mean, the basic sports, we didn't have lacrosse and stuff like that, but I mean, we had a park in my neighborhood, and we had we had like five or six kids that were all in my grade. So we played everything that we could in the park. We did skateboarding, BMX bikes, all the way to playing tennis, basketball, football. Baseball was really my sport before baseball was my best sport. And and then I swam and bowled as well. So I mean, it was a lot of stuff in my very early life that just kept me sports oriented. And I mean, I I didn't even own a video game console until N64, which I mean,
Mm.
I know some people here don't even understand that order of video game consoles, but that was farther in than most.
Gotcha.
So
So you played every single sport. You had a very outdoorsy childhood, a group of friends that you were growing up with. It sounds like you had kind of the Goonies growing up. You had kind of
oh yeah,
Stand By Me growing up. Those kinds of vibes. Whereas the neighborhood, it was your neighborhood and your boys against the world.
yeah. I mean, but the one kid had a boat. We'd be wakeboarding, fishing, all that kind of stuff in the river because we were on the river as well. So
Hmm.
we were on the Manasquan River, so we did all the water sports as well in the river.
Interesting. So what was that like then? What was like your favorite memory from having that kind of childhood? And what was the impact that your friends had on you growing up?
I mean, I think it it's not even just my favorite memory, which is really ridiculous, just to kind of to give you the idea of what we used to do as kids, which was the dumbest things we could possibly think of. So on I think it was like probably like my 10th birthday or something. We thought of this new thing that afternoon that why don't we try to wagon surf? That was a new activity. So we had one of those like a I think like we're going with little Tykes wagons or something. You hold the front. So
Yeah.
usually you drag someone. So we thought it'd be a great idea to hold that top like as a handle and drive the wagon. Except we'd be doing it down the hill. And in front of
Oh,
my house, there's the river access, which was a path as a road where you could bring your boat and put your boat in the water. So it was a big, long, like little path downhill. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, we did all the other hills in the neighborhood. I'm like, this is the hardest one. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go for it. This is on my birthday, which I have a birthday party with people coming over my house after this.
okay. This is not gonna end well. I can
Oh,
already
no.
tell.
So I go for it. I'm like, all right, I'm always the kid who went first,
Uh huh.
which is also why I had the most stitches in the neighborhood. I didn't break any bones, knock on wood, but I had, I'm over 150 stitches just from doing great activities. But so go down the hill. I get 3/4 of the way down. I go around the corner. There's a tree down, and we didn't check that before. So I'm probably going like 10 miles an hour in a wagon, and
Hmm.
there's no brakes. And yeah, so I hit this thing, get launched. I have a massive scar on my shoulder from the road rash of ripping through the shirt and just dragging.
Oh,
Thank God I had a helmet on, and
oh wow, helmet.
just slid down the pavement. And I was just coated in blood. And of course, I walk right up the river access, like, oh man. And I'm just thinking, oh man, mom's going to be so pissed. And we get up there and it's 20 minutes before people are supposed to come over. And, she's got to patch me up. I'm just covered in blood.
Oh,
And that wasn't even the worst debauchery that happened at my birthday party.
okay. There's
Just to
more.
put it into perspective of
Please,
how my
please
friends
continue.
are, growing up. Like,
Hmm.
so it's like we start playing games, and instead of just regular backyard games, it was, oh, let's see if we can double bounce someone off the trampoline, jumping out of the tree onto the roof.
What the hell?
So we successfully got someone on the roof from the trampoline, which was about 8 feet away from the house. So,
Uh-huh.
this was aggressive, but the person would be on the trampoline and then you would jump out of the tree and time the double bounce with someone else. So it was like a triple bounce.
Hmm.
And we slingshot him and we got him up onto the roof. Needless to say, that didn't really set the parents' tone in a good way. So
Oh
that
my god.
that was the worst thing that happened
Uh-huh. At only at this one birthday party. I'm sure
at this birthday party. But yeah, like
every birthday
that
party
just
was
kind of
probably some
sets you
fun
like,
stuff.
it wasn't like we didn't have like even when we were playing sports in the neighborhood, we didn't have it wasn't a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything that we did was like most of the sports that we played growing up, other than if you weren't in that season, you were just playing. It's not like you had a coach or anything. So,
Yeah.
but we did a lot of debauchery that was that became a hobby. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I got that.
yeah. So that was definitely like the Goonie lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely us growing up as a group of people, and it was fun. You got the boys, and then you have the one Tom girl,
Yep.
and it's like that's always the makeup. So
Yeah.
it was good.
No,
It was a good
that's
time, man. And I mean, hey, I was riding my bike to the beach since I was 13 years old. That's just
mm-hmm.
what you did.
Dang. So you have a
Surfed.
complete history with the beach. You're connected,
Oh
being
yeah,
7 minutes away growing up, and then riding your bike at 13, which was like 13 minutes away, whatever it was.
yeah. Like a bike ride, because you got to go the safe way. Like we
Mm-hmm.
would take the bike path, but it would be a group of us. In
Yeah.
middle school or high school, it's like, or it wasn't even high school. I was middle school. Take your beach cruiser. You got your surfboard on the rack, and then you pick a girl up from the neighborhood across the street and you double them on your handlebars all the way there because they wouldn't ride their bikes because that didn't make sense.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's completely different from my childhood. So it's interesting. We're
Yeah.
all from the same state, and yet we come from completely different childhoods. I mean, I had a pretty, in terms of playing outside, backyard
Mhm.
sports, that was very similar to mine, but just by location and what you can do and how you look for adventure as a kid. I think that's what's
Oh,
interesting to
yeah.
me.
I mean, it's that like, when you're playing manhunt and all these other
Oh
things,
yeah.
all the kids in the neighborhood, and, it just, you don't see that much anymore. And it's nice now. I do see it a little bit in my neighborhood because we have like a new era of kids in my
hmm
parents' neighborhood, and it's nice to see that again, where you see a bunch of kids outside doing stuff because
hmm
that's not everyone nowadays.
Yeah. Especially now with Corona and everything.
Well,
So
that just makes it even worse. So,
yeah.
I mean,
Hopefully.
hey, my parents' neighborhood though, there was plenty of kids outside still doing stuff. I mean, they were all in their own yards and not together, but
hmm
I saw a lot of kids playing outside the last two times I went over to see my parents during this, and it made me happy.
hmm Nice. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Especially now, got to find a way to stay active, get outside, get some sun, and still, keep yourself socially sane. Because if you're cooped up all day long, then that's
Oh, that
definitely going to take a toll. So
you're just
good
gonna
for them.
be watching the crazy news and get crazy. That's what
Yeah.
happens. Can't be
Yep.
doing that.
I agree with you. So what about? Tell me, going back to the debaucheryness of it. Were there any specific people, whether it was in sports or in media, and like who were you guys looking up to? Who were the trendsetters back in in that time?
So role models growing up. Uh, so believe it or not, before I was tall, I was I played football a
Okay.
lot, and my like growing up, my role model was Emmett Smith, and that was one of those who fall into that Cowboys '90s dynasty kind of thing. But hey, it was I played running back, and that was he was my role model because he was
hmm
obviously I mean he was the best running back when I was growing up. So and I mean football, I loved football and I played it so much up until high school pretty much. That was
hmm
where I didn't grow enough and they wanted me to be in the weight room 4 days a week in the middle of the summer and I was like, "But I go to the beach. I don't do
Hmm.
that." So looking back, I was like, you know what, that probably could have benefited my life a little bit. But instead, we went surfing.
Hmm. Surfing. Interesting. Did you surf a lot? What were the waves
I
like there? I feel like Jersey doesn't have the best waves.
I mean, you got to know where to go.
hmm
So, according to you got to watch the wind, the tide, and the current and everything. And like we would
hmm
know
So you picked up a
Once,
meteorology degree basically from
I
learning
mean,
the
you
surf.
pretty much have to. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's the cheater websites like surfline.com growing up, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it was, we would have it. It mattered what kind of waves you wanted and how everything was coming in. But I mean, you would go either like the inlet or Seagirt or Point Pleasant side inlet, depending on how it was. And
Hmm.
we'd go out before school all the time, and that was, I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I went into homeroom in high school, just still, like you took the wetsuit off in the parking lot,
Oh
and
yeah.
you put clothes on, but you just
Uh-huh.
smell like ocean all day in class, and you're like, I didn't have time to shower.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a unique way to grow up, and I mean, I
Hmm.
surfed all the way up until I was just about out of college, and then I was in Florida surfing and had a baby shark latch onto my leg.
What?
And
Baby shark.
yeah, so they don't have teeth. They're called dogfish.
Uh-huh.
And it latched on right around my lower calf and just started ripping. But it's just gums. And yeah,
I
that
feel like if there's a baby shark around, that's actually kind of scary. Is it like bears where their moms are around or something? Or
no.
okay, that'd be
Like
bad.
they can just get a little closer to shore
Mm.
because it was like low tide and stuff, and I was just kind of in the middle, but I was in Sebastian Inlet in
Hmm.
Florida, and yeah, that just man, that freaked me out. Like I just don't have the desire to surf anymore
Oh
after
my
that.
God.
That just took me out of the game, man. Like
Oh man.
that was bad.
Hey, I mean, all right. So listen, then it took you out of the ocean and put you on the beach. Haha.
Exactly. Now I play a
Perfect.
lot, definitely play more volleyball.
Oh man, that's crazy. So okay, then before I finish up wrapping on your early childhood growing up, is there anything else that you felt was very impactful besides that last moment there? What was, if you had to sum up your childhood and kind of give me the key takeaway, what did your childhood teach you about the way you approached life or sports, whatever it might be?
I mean, I will tell you this: with growing up, it was I always had that one friend that he was in most sports he was always a little bit better than me, and it was always like the 1-2 kind of thing. And
Hmm.
like growing up as someone that wasn't like in the friend group, you're not like that dominant personality, but I deep down inside I was though. And that was
Hmm.
where it took me a while to discover myself a little bit. Let me say that. But I had a full nerd side of growing up and a
Mm.
full sports side of growing up. It was like, it was a weird group how I ended up with two true different groups of friends that didn't really overlap at all
Hmm.
growing up. And there wasn't many people that in my high school that had the two groups. That's not how it was. Like you were either an athlete or you were a nerd. And it just, you know, I just look back at it, and if you just stay like you don't have to pick. You don't have to fit into the mold in high school. That's not
Yeah.
what it's about. And like my biggest takeaway of it looking back at it now is having the two different groups of friends allowed me to kind of put together my priorities a little bit better by the time I got to college,
Mm.
and I figured it out. And
Interesting.
just because it wasn't cool to be smart, that's not something you look back at and you're proud of.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
you're like, okay, I'm all right. Maybe I got a C in that writing class, but I got all A's and B's other than that, so that really wasn't that bad.
Oh man, no, it's interesting, and I think that gives me a deeper insight into how you are now, as well as how your past experiences have impacted you. So
Yeah,
thanks for sharing that. That's really
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, like, let's put a little bit more of like, I was on the bowling team for winter, but I also was on the swim team. So two sports because they didn't have things at the same time of the week. I
Hmm.
played two sports in winter. and no fall sport. So I could have 3-lettered in in high school with
Oh
baseball.
my god. Interesting. Okay,
Oh
so
yeah.
I see the common theme. A lot of sports, a lot of variety of activities.
hmm
And so, how did your compass eventually point you towards beach volleyball? How did that even happen? I didn't hear anything about beach volleyball growing up, and yet you were 7 minutes away from the beach. What does
Exactly.
that mean?
Uh, I will tell you that volleyball just was not a sport for me growing up until I was like 16. And at 16, we started playing a little more competitively in gym and stuff. And then we had a volleyball club after school where it's just one of the gym teachers played a little bit more, and they just taught us how to play.
Hmm.
So I stayed after, you stay after school and you do that. And I started doing that, and I was like, wow, like I really like this. Like, this is a lot of fun. Other key factor, foreign exchange girl, really hot.
This sounds like American Pie.
um, Blonde hair, blue eyes, was a setter for her team back in Europe, and yeah, caught my eye real fast. So then I really made sure I kept going to club, and yeah, so that was good. But then we started playing. Then we talked to some people, and they were like, "Oh, hey, go play at Neptune High School or something." So I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay." Well, the next fall I started playing there because I had I could drive. So then I was 17. So I started, doing that, and we would go every Tuesday and Thursday, play, get a little bit better, get a little bit better, and then the summer came around the next year, and I was like, everyone's like, oh, like, so I'm 17, and it's like, oh, you can go play on the beach, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then
Mm.
I had to kind of figure it out because there wasn't kids my age
Mhm.
there wasn't like a guy group that played that I
Yeah.
knew. So I moseyed my way down to Belmar from a few people that I knew from that Neptune gym, and met a couple older folk, and they kind of took us under the wing and
Mhm.
taught us the game a little bit. And I mean, I played a bunch of fours, a bunch of sixes those next couple summers. Played a headliner.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there.
Yeah.
Headliner. What is that? I have heard that come
Oh.
up like multiple times in multiple conversations with so many people. I don't know what headliners is, and I also know that there was no such thing as GAV back then. So what were you playing with? Like, what was the league? I need the context
So
because I
yeah,
don't know.
so oh, this is a great throwback actually. The league was Spike Sport, which I know met my man Mark Blair for the first time there. Didn't even realize what that would turn into down the road. So we duked it out a lot in the finals in
Mhm.
that league, like
Spike
every
sport.
summer, and that was fun. But yeah, that was in Belmar. But
Hmm.
headliner is in Neptune, which is right next to Belmar. It's a bar, has 2 courts.
Okay.
Back when I played there, it was Thursday night was men's advanced, and there was a lot of open boys that played,
Mm. Okay.
and it was
Like,
men's
who were the big
advanced
shots? What
sixes.
were the names?
Like, I mean, you had old school ballers, and you
Hmm.
had new school ballers, and then you had the kind of scrubby team that I would play on, because I was not good. But I mean, hey, like, there was people in that league. The one year we got killed, and I mean, Frazier was in the league, TK, Dan Simpowski, Brian Gataletta, Jason Madero, and then you go to a little more old school guys. You got Jamie Drum, Louis Vanders. I can never say Lou's last name. I'm just saying Van. That's fine. Uh, and you had Todd Lavren. Oh God, I could just keep going. I'm like, I have all the
Hmm.
faces right now. I'm just trying to go down
Yeah.
rosters right now. Like, uh, God, Ed used to play there too, which he still shows up once in a while. He doesn't play
Hmm.
anymore, but I
So
mean,
this was like a community that took you under the wing.
yeah. And honestly, like, they were like, oh, like this kid's young and playing at headliner. All right, like he's not terrible. Like we could
Hmm.
maybe work with this. So occasionally I would start getting calls from them to play the next summer.
Hmm.
And then it was like, oh, okay. And then we played. The league kind of died down a little bit. It wasn't as crazy good as it used to, but it was that crazy good because it also was dollar taco, dollar Heineken night.
Oh,
So people would
of
get
course.
hammered. So
Interesting.
yeah,
And does this headliner still exist now? I don't
headliner
think.
still exists. The
Okay.
level of play is not there, but it
Uh-huh.
still exists. And it's still a good time though.
Gotcha. So then tell me about, so that they took you under the wing. It kind of taught you the game from the sixes perspective. But what about doubles? When was the first tournament you ever played doubles, and what was that like? And who'd you play with?
I mean, I had played in I had played doubles in like in Belmar before and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that, and then I had learned the game from the people that played in Belmar and kind of figured it out and
Mm.
kind of knew where I stood with the level
Mm-hmm.
and went to play Gav and see what year was that. I have a hoodie from it that I'm pretty sure Renew took from me. I'm pretty sure I have a hoodie from 2006 or 2007. Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a 2007 hoodie that I have. And I played A, but I played co-ed A with uh one of the girls from Belmar that I had played with. And
Mm-hmm.
we got second place and I was like, "Oh, like this was fun. I could do this." But you roll into the tournament and it's like I have a water jug and like a backpack full of snacks, like and a sandwich mushed in the bottom. It's like you wonder why you feel like you're gonna die at the end of the
Yeah,
day. It's
that's
like you
literally
didn't
every
roll
single person's first tournament. That's how they
exactly
roll
like no umbrella, no chair, no towel, like
up.
and now I'm
Oh,
gabbed at. So,
hmm. I
but
mean, yeah.
no, that
Now you're the complete opposite.
oh
You
yeah,
prepared in every way, and I actually have a question later on I want to ask you
oh,
about, but we'll get to that
yeah,
later.
we'll get to that.
Hmm.
But no, I mean, growing up, like that was how I figured out. Like, and then I kind of stepped away. I never really played men's. I played co-ed a bunch,
Mm.
and then uh, my first tournament for Gav Double A, which I had played. I mean, I had played people that played Double A, and I knew like where I was. But then I played with Chris Sadeo after playing Aces the week before,
Hmm.
which was at Headliner, which is a drinking tournament. But
Yeah.
we played Double A, and it was the week that it was the Cape May week, and I didn't know anything about Gav. So
Hmm.
all the open teams that didn't want to travel to Cape May played in Double A. So it was super stacked.
The beatdown came probably,
I mean, the
maybe.
beatdown didn't come that
Okay.
bad. Like I played first game of the day, played Brian Gadaletta and Kyle Thompson.
Hmm.
So I mean, like I know Brian. Like
Yeah.
I've been playing against Brian for a couple years now. Like we know each other, we're friends. But yeah, I mean, they beat us. It wasn't too pretty, but
Yeah.
you know, we didn't get offered.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's when I used to full time block.
Okay.
Yeah, I full time blocked for the first like 3 years of playing Great American
Interesting.
Volleyball.
I could never see that. I could
Yeah,
have never predicted that.
full time blocked with like an 8-inch higher vertical and good knees.
Mm. Interesting.
Yeah.
And what you mentioned before, like getting the beat down or getting offered, I feel like a lot of players, that's something they kind of struggle with, whether they're first learning beach or transitioning in from indoor. And so, what would you say to them when they're experiencing that frustration and they don't yet see how much fun beach can really be?
Good question. So if you're transitioning, that's harder than just starting with beach, in my opinion, because then it's a completely different game, different footwork. You got to teach you're teaching everything. You're teaching your body to move in a different way, kind of thing, for most of this. But the one thing that I really like to stress with anyone trying to learn the game, and if you're like, hey, I'm playing beach for fun, or hey, I'm playing beach to get better. So you have to look at it in two different ways. If you want
Mm-hmm.
to play beach and get better, every time you get a beat down, try to take one thing away that you can either improve or you did it's one thing you improved and one thing you want to improve. And you're not trying to fix everything. You're just looking at, okay, I did this well and this is what I'd like to do well. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what you want to look at those beat downs as. I mean, it's it happens to basically everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone you gotta get the lick. So you don't just show up and beat everybody. That's not how it usually works. And I mean, I received the beatdown for a very long time, especially when I left Double A. So you know it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you stay with it and you focus on your skills, like focus on your skills. Don't sit there and try to blame your partner for something when you're trying to get better, because that's just, you know, you focus on getting yourself better. Like
Mm-hmm.
make sure you get that one thing that you focused on and try to improve on that, by the next time you go play or something. Like the
Yeah.
next time you're in practice, you know what, I'm going to fix this. This was my weakness when I played this game.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So then, what should players be doing right now to make most of their downtime in terms of improving their physical skills and maybe even like I guess one step more is improving their mental skills or emotional skills when it comes to playing the game when you're not able to access the court.
When you're not able to play, I think the best thing you can do, which I mean, hey, it comes down to learning from the original training master himself, Ihor, who, I mean, work on your footwork. If you cannot repeat proper footwork over and over again, not on sand, how are you going to be able to do it in the middle of a game? So you want to memorize, okay, if I'm going to approach, this is my approach. And don't get me wrong, yeah, you got to adjust everything, but you want to have your fundamental footwork down.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to block, this is my jump. It's like this is my press. Those are the things you want to work on. Or if you're just standing in front of your garage and you say, okay, I'm going to go for a line over. What's my step? Okay, that's the step over. Second step, obviously you're not going to dive because you're on pavement, but those are the things you want to work on, like your footwork, and then sit there and set to yourself. Good hands don't just show up. It's
Mm-hmm.
You got to sit there and drill them into your brain where, all right, maybe that ball's coming and spinning this time at a different angle. Well, can you get underneath it and not chuck it? That's really what it can. So work on that soft touch. That's just another.
Yeah.
I mean, I sit here on the couch and I set the ball to myself, and
Mm-hmm.
I try to do that and agility ladders at least twice a week. So footwork and agility ladders twice a week, just to keep the
Mm-hmm.
feet moving.
Yeah, and ultimately, like the hardest thing I think might be to sustain it. Everyone probably had the excitement, the enthusiasm when quarantine first started, but to separate yourself, you have to continue and let it sustain throughout this entire period. Otherwise, you'll just kind of fall back to your previous patterns and your previous level of play. How are you keeping your motivation up?
Honestly, it really helps that my fiance uh, lives with me, because she will wake up and just run every day, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just painful to me. beyond
To
words.
me too. I agree. Running
So
is like a punishment in every other sport.
exactly. So we're part of the Strava app where it says how many calories she burned on her
Hmm.
run in the morning. So I'll be like, oh, I gotta work out when I get home. Like that's. But no, I mean honestly, I'm pretty good with the drive for myself. Where
Hmm.
it's I look at it as I'm not that tall. I'm not I'm not jumping 40 inches off the ground. I got bad knees. It's all right. How if I'm gonna compete and I still want to play when the doctors say you're not gonna play at that high level anymore, that now your knees are all messed up. It's you know what? I'm gonna prove you wrong. Like I'm gonna work out, even if I have to modify these exercises. It's I work out this. It's like I'm gonna try to work out as hard as I can this week to make myself better for that first tournament that we might be able to play at some point this year.
Hmm.
It's like I don't want it to be me getting gassed the reason why I lost. I want it to be I lost because I lost, not I lost because I was tired and out of shape.
Hmm.
So that complexity kind of stays with me,
Hmm.
and it allows me to really grind. I mean, 2 days a week now, I'm doing cardio in the morning. I got a rower in my living room and I just row when Nikki wakes up to go running. I go downstairs and I row,
Hmm.
or I do a body weight exercises just to,
Hmm.
you know, do something before I go to work, and then I
Yep.
come back home and I'll lift. So that's just I'm just trying to stay in that routine. That's
Hmm. And the way you're describing it, even across all the other guests we've had on the show, it just really shows me it's all internal. You have to have it within yourself. Otherwise, I mean, nothing else can really get you to wake up early or to put those reps in. And so you have to have that drive within yourself. Otherwise, you're really just never going to be the best version of yourself at this game.
yeah. I
So.
mean, you have to want it. If you look at any of these professional athletes, especially ones that play volleyball, they're getting touches or they're working out every day that they can.
Hmm. Especially volleyball, because the current state of affairs, it's beach volleyball, and I mean, I guess indoor more so it's more sustainable. But from a beach volleyball perspective, where do you see the future of beach going in the next 10 years? Do you think it'll become sustainable from an athlete's perspective and from like a business perspective?
So the overall business perspective of beach volleyball, I think, is starting to get sustainable. What
Hmm.
AVP is doing right now is really good from our domestic tour. And FIVB is just massive right now. And they
Hmm.
have crazy, crazy amounts of sponsors at every event. Every event that I've seen, and I've talked to people that have been to them, it's just been an outstanding performance when you're there seeing the events. But
Hmm.
from the AVP perspective, what they're doing right now with AVP America and just they're incorporating everything. So it's like once you're in the system, you know about everything.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden you know about everything. Well, you know what? I want to go to that event. And yeah, they're still really not even charging to go to the events, and they're just still, you know, being sponsor run. But I think it's going to get to the point where they're going to be able to charge for the events soon.
Hmm.
And that's just going to bolster the money for the players.
Hmm.
And the more that this is starting to get, you're looking at this where ESPN's starting to pick up like the NCAA beach games, and well, ESPN might start picking up more of the AVP on one of the channels. So
Hmm.
it might not. I mean, even though Amazon's doing a great job, I watch every match that I can on Amazon when it's on. Like that's great. Having access to being able to watch the games, like you begin to follow these athletes, and
Hmm.
the athlete hustle is hard on the AVP.
Yep.
Like if you're not in the top, I don't know,
Probably like top
what,
four, top
top
six max.
four, top eight at best, like,
Hmm.
and I say top eight sparingly because no offense, it's when the other top three teams go play FIVB, you can come in and sneak in and win a big check that week at AVP. And if you
Yep.
do that twice a week, twice a season, that's enough money to survive on for most of these
Hmm.
guys. Between
Yeah.
that, coaching, sponsors, and I want to see the game grow. And, you know, starting Highline was one of those concepts. So it's like me seeing that and backing that up with a business
Hmm.
just shows others that I definitely am one that believes in this game and thinks it's going to grow.
I
And I
agree,
would love to
100%.
see where it was sustainable for all athletes to play on.
Hmm. Speaking of Highline, obviously that's not a small feat or venture. So I don't know how much you can get into the details of that, but what was that experience like? What were the what were the tribulations, and obviously getting it completed must have been an absolute joy. So what was that experience like overall for you?
It was a nightmare.
The best
the
nightmare ever.
Yeah, it was the best nightmare. It was a nightmare that you were driven really, really hard to try to get through.
Hmm.
And we looked at so many places, and you're going back and forth because it's not just finding a place. It's finding a place that then you can open in the right amount of time. And it didn't have that much construction, and I mean, it was painful. There was probably not even counting like if not the visits, probably visited over 10 places, but then also looked at, you're looking at hundreds of them online, and you're
Hmm.
just trying to run numbers, making sure it works, seeing if the place can take all the parking needs that you'll have. Are we renting it? Are we buying it? Are they allowing us to put sand in it? And that was really and then ceiling height, does it have heat? Does it have air?
Hmm.
Like, it's like you're trying to figure all this stuff out. And every single time you go to the new place, like whenever you go to a place, there's always one problem or two
Yep.
problems that were different from the one before that you got to figure out. And oh man, it was hard, and it kept me up at night, let me tell you. But
Hmm.
when it was all said and done, seeing that first dump truck dump sand in, that felt good, man. That felt real good. And
Hmm.
we closed the deal for Highline the day before my birthday, so it was
Oh, there you
fantastic.
go.
It was great timing. But no, I mean, hey, I am so happy that it exists, and I feel like
Hmm.
it's going to help transition, at most the juniors, the junior girls who now have a chance to train year round before
Hmm.
going to, an NCAA school to play.
Yep.
I think that's the biggest thing, and I just love that I was, blessed to be a part of this, and
Hmm.
I really I love seeing the juniors play, knowing that this is an opportunity that they didn't have before this, and
Hmm.
that's really what makes me feel the best out of everything. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to go there with my friends, playing a tournament,
Hmm.
whatever, but that the juniors are really where I see the future, because that's the future of the game.
Yep.
Is,
I
can we
agree.
get that superstar to come out of our training area?
Hmm.
That'd be great.
Yep. And that really just speaks to the whole motto of growing the game. You grow it
Hmm.
at the youth level, then it'll grow in perpetuity, but also because it just brings the whole community together. Now we finally have a place where we can hang out. You don't always have to play. You can just grab a beer. You can play if you want to, and just keep the game going. And summer never really ends, so I
And
think
that's the best
it's
part.
the best. What's your favorite memory from Highline so far?
Favorite memory from Highline?
Hmm.
Um, I'm. It's hard to really put, like, I'm trying to put, like, what's that one?
I mean, yeah, I
And
get
I mean, hey, like, I want to say
peanut
just,
butter tots.
oh God, yeah. No, honestly, it was just being able to see, like, when you go in, like, Nikki and I went. we went out, we went on a date night, and then we just rolled into Highline on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And we rolled in there, and I was seeing, group my, Renew, Ellie, Brian, Dowie, Jana, and just, and Rom, and like, we were there, and no one was really playing. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
we just went there because other people were playing, and we just hung out. We had a
Mm-hmm.
couple drinks. We watched people play, and we were just, it was just fun. Like, that was it. It's like you get to do that, and you're like, wow, like, this is just a place we can hang out at as well,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fun, man. Like, that's what I'm looking at, and it's just every year we're just going to keep improving it, and just to make those experiences like that better, where you get to hang out with your friends, and like, we've known each other forever. It's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
great. It's great.
Yeah. And I think it just goes back to the what you were talking earlier when you first started playing the game, you had the community kind of bring you under their wing, and now we have this place to kind of bring up the next generation and just make more memories, whether you're playing in a tournament or just hanging out. But speaking of tournaments, obviously Highland has had a lot of tournaments, and you've played in a lot of tournaments yourself. But tell me about your favorite tournament stop on the Jersey scene. Which one has been the most special to you?
Well, I guess I could say, I mean, my personal favorite location is Point Pleasant,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just,
Wait,
I
hold on,
just
hold on.
love.
Point Pleasant, the one with the cranky cop on the
Oh,
ATV
oh
comes
yeah.
and harasses him. So that's your favorite place.
That, I mean, you
Was he
got to
always
realize,
there? Was he there when you first started playing too? Because that guy is an
dude,
actual jerk.
he, he's been there, oh God, so long.
Since the dawn of time.
So long, way too long. But I mean, see, it's like, I love Point Pleasant just for the fact of just like what it is. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my favorite tournament is still Big Shots, but I mean, on the Jersey scene, it's Big Shots. That's my favorite one to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And but I really do like the Point Pleasant location. And I mean, hey, like, I just have so many good memories from there, and it's just, it's always just, hey, I'm just going over the bridge, going to Blake Ave.
Mm,
Like,
yep.
that's how I remember it, and
Yep.
that's why that's obviously my favorite spot to go to. But
Mm-hmm.
Big Shots is still, I mean, hey, if you don't if you don't go to Big Shots just to experience it as a player, you're not doing the game right. Like, you gotta go.
Yep. You have to. I agree. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun memories are made. And then for me, I know last year at Big Shots, so that's when I got to first experience Chris Frazier's epic dance move. So
Oh
it's,
man, I
it's
mean,
always a good time.
that's been that's like 10 years for me now. That's,
Yeah, you're probably there for the origin story.
I mean,
So,
yeah, he's been doing it for a while.
okay. So how about in terms of the game? Tell me about what's like the best heckle that someone has hit you with.
The best heckle. I'm not I'm not really the one that likes to start this usually, so that's why. I'm not really
All
like
right, then
the
what's your
heckler
favorite
type.
heckler? Like, who do you heckle the most?
Honestly, the one that I like to heckle the most is Charterina, but that's because,
I knew you were gonna say that.
yeah, we we vacation too much together at this point, and we
Mm,
play too much together. So it's fun to heckle each other, and
mhm.
like that's fun. Like, when you're done playing, you're drinking some beers, and you're, heckling the guys a little bit. But I mean, I mean, hey, if you really want to go for the OG best heckler, it is definitely AJ.
AJ Mahal.
AJ Mahalik, he just knows how to grind some people. And when he
Uh-huh.
gets someone, oh man, it's good.
You ever seen anyone like implode from a heckle?
Oh, it's from AJ. And it
Hmm.
was, let's see, s- not last year, the year before Big Shots. So that's what, 2018
18?
Big Shots?
Mm-hmm.
So semifinals, Nate Miller is playing with Chris Vaughn against uh, Josh or Josue and Jake, who and I guess Nate decided to like say something to AJ earlier in the day, or the
Mm-hmm.
day before when they played earlier in brackets, I guess, and AJ was playing with Todd, and I don't know, I guess something sparked, and they, just had some words, but AJ, rare time that I actually saw him with a beer in his hand, and he just, I mean, man, he was playing game. It was just like playing the fiddle in Nate's
Uh-huh.
head. And the implosion that happened in game 3 was just, I felt bad. I mean, the kid's young. He couldn't even drink yet. Like, he just, oh man,
Like
it
child
was,
abuse.
it was over, man. It was bad.
Oh my god.
And oh God, like for someone to say, what the hell did he say? He said something to AJ when he was at the service line. I'm like, oh man. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, you should not have done that. But that
Oh.
was, I mean, of recent time, that was the implosion of implosions that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hey, Nate and I are cool, and but oh man, that was a good one. That was a good-
And yeah, you get to just watch it from the sidelines, and you're sitting there with your White Claw or your bag of popcorn, whatever snacks you have, and it's just a treat, I
oh
guess.
yeah, man. The White Claws weren't even around then, but that's all right.
That's true. Speaking of White Claws and speaking of snacks, I know that you're meticulous when it comes to packing snacks for the beach. Can you take us through your mental shopping list and how you decide what to bring to the beach, and how does that happen? What's that process like?
You're really trying to pull out the inner lunatic here, aren't you? So, but no, I mean, hey, I my Friday, because I'm a I always take half day Fridays in the summer,
Hmm.
and that's just how I like to. I work a half day. I go to the grocery store on the way home, and I pack for the weekend. And it matters who's staying at my house and whatnot or what I'm buying. But when I pack my cooler, I always 100% bury White Claws or beers at the bottom. That has to happen.
Hmm.
That's step one. But
Hmm.
no, when I'm shopping, I look. This is crazy. Matters who I'm playing with. Matters who now Nikki's playing with also.
Uh-huh.
Because if there's any dietary restrictions, I will buy snacks that fit those dietary restrictions.
So kind.
So, you know, I always like to have some kind of fruit or something to get like a natural sugar.
Hmm.
I always have to have, for me, something a little more substantial, either like a sandwich or some sort of like, chicken or, you know, something with a little bit of like something with some calories in there, like some kind of either like a rice bowl or whatever, like
Hmm.
something that's pretty healthy but has some good calories in it.
Yeah.
So I'm always making something like that on a Friday,
Hmm.
usually.
All right, everyone, make sure you're taking notes because I know a lot of you guys are fatiguing during playoffs. So take notes.
Yeah, like this is, and like I'm definitely crazy when it comes to this. So like I have that, and that's always like, all right, this is what I'm gonna eat in the middle of the day. That's fine. And so you have your fruit, you have that, like your main course kind of thing, and then there's always what I call like my after pool play food that I want to eat before
Hmm.
playoffs. So that's you want to have something that's not going to take a while to metabolize.
Hmm.
So that's where, depending on how you feel, that's where like y'all sometimes have like a little protein shake or something, which I use plant based protein just because it, breaks down in my body faster. But I'll have aminos or Pedialyte with, or like either like a plant-based protein shake or something like that, or some kind of recovery drink or something that has that, to refuel that body right before you
The next
have to
push.
go all out and play.
Yeah.
And like that's really big on, that's why it's like I try to have those varieties of fruits, and then I'll also have like some sort of like a cracker or a chip or
Mm-hmm.
something as
Something
well.
salty.
Yeah, like you got to have the salty somewhere in there as well, just to you know, have those different tastes. But hey, you never know how your stomach's going to feel, so you got to bring a variety of everything. That's
Yep.
always my thing. It's like I'll always throw extra things in. Like I always keep those baby food packets. I always have like uh, I I always have Annie's bunnies because those are like
Yeah.
little like those graham cracker things. They're
Yep.
so good.
And you have
I always
chocolate
have.
mousse
Oh
and
yeah.
this and that.
Yeah,
You have
some sort of
everything.
hummus. You got to have some sort of hummus. And then sometimes you got to have dark chocolate hummus if you got those. So you got to have it all. But the most important thing that you have to have is you got to make sure you have some kind of chocolate in there. Because if you don't, then there's no way you can satisfy any of the girls. There's no.
Oh my God. There you have it. Everyone, you have the actual list.
uh,
No more excuses from anyone. Now you know how to feel properly.
and if you're playing with Lisa and co-ed, you got to bring a ginger ale.
Hmm. That is actually key if you want to
That's it.
win.
Hey man, that's a 10 years running thing. That's a 10.
Awesome. So, okay, before I wrap up
Hmm.
here, I know we're getting closer to the end of our time.
Hmm.
Can you maybe, I know I asked you from your early life what that kind of impact or the takeaway from growing up was, but diving into volleyball and the community and everything that the sport has kind of given to you, what would you say is the biggest takeaway or lesson that you have learned in your career playing beach volleyball?
Hmm. I mean, th- this is something that I had growing up, and when I say it's take care of your family, that's something that I have also viewed what volleyball has become. It's become more of a family more than anything, and all that happens each year is you just get a couple more members,
Mm-hmm.
and and hey, sometimes you got to lose a couple because they can't play anymore, or they got to have kids, or they're too busy, like, and that happens. But it's if you treat everybody like their family and take care of everyone, and everyone has that view with everybody, it just creates such a ridiculously amazing community that just, I don't know, like that's almost where like the real addiction comes from
Mm-hmm.
is, yes, we love the game, but to me, it's also all about the community. It's, you go and you see everyone, and sometimes, before we played in the winter, it was, you didn't see those people most of the time from October or even September until the next spring. But you just pretended you basically didn't see it. Yeah, it's like it didn't matter if
Mm-hmm.
you didn't see them. It Because everybody's, family. And then now all of a sudden you start having events and you start hanging out with everyone that you play volleyball with, even in the winter, because the community connection just gets that much stronger.
Yep.
And I think that's, I was raised on, you got to take care of your family, and your family's number one. And growing up that way and being able to now apply that as well to my volleyball family, it's great. And I mean, a lot of people know I like to take care of everyone, and that's just, it's something that I don't know. It's just the way I was brought up, and
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as, hey, if I'm helping you out, you help me out. It's all good. No one's keeping track of anything. It's just helping. That's
Yep.
it.
No, that makes sense. And I think those are definitely wise words to live by. And that's how we grow the game. And we just grow the mutual love for our sport. So thanks for that answer. That was really nice.
No problem.
Okay, so then with these last couple of minutes, you get the choice. You get to choose between rapid fire or Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And yet to date, no one has chosen Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So I will
I
give you the choice.
oh man, I'm gonna. be a fool if I pick this. That's why people go rapid fire. I see this, and everyone has because I've listened to all of them. All right, I'm gonna go. I'll go against the grain. You tricked me into it here. So, oh man.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see, Nick. Are you smarter than a fifth grader?
Probably
Your first
not.
question is, who invented the light bulb?
Oh God.
Do you need a lifeline?
Do I need a lifeline? Oh God, I can't say that because I know that's not right. God. All right, lifeline. I want to say Thomas Edison, but I just don't remember.
Ding, ding, ding. You're correct.
Okay. I'm like, it's like it's one of those things. It's like I really want to say this, but is it wrong?
Okay. Well, I assumed you locked it in, so
okay, I locked it in.
Okay. Question number 2. What is the formula for density?
Oh, that's a lifeliner. I have no idea.
Okay, so the lifeline in this case, you get a skip. So this question is going to be skipped. All right, Your next question is, how many continents are there?
7.
Okay, that is correct. Your next question is, who is the Greek god of the ocean?
Poseidon.
Okay, you're on a roll. Okay, now this is your last question. Are you ready?
Okay.
If you get this right, you will be smarter than a fifth grader, and the public education has served you well. Okay, your question is, when was the Declaration of Independence signed?
1776.
I need the full date.
July 4th, 1776.
We have a winner. My friend Nick is smarter than a fifth grader.
I pulled it off, barely.
Yeah, no, you actually used your lifelines perfectly, so it worked. You did it.
Density, I'm like, that's like sitting in my head. I'm like, wait a second. It's like, it's like one of those like, oh man, what is it now? Now you got to tell me.
Okay. Well, what was your guess?
I know it has something to do. It's like mass, time, area.
That's the numerator.
All right, so it's mass. Wait, let me think about it. Density is the thickness. Probably like mass divided by area.
Close, but mass over volume. That was close.
Mass over volume. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, you still did it. You are smarter than fifth graders, so this works. Now I got to change my questions for the next person who's brave enough to do it. But Nick, thank you so much for joining me again today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you had a good time, man.
No problem, man. It was a great time.
All right, so have a great rest of your night. All right, thanks again.
You too, man. Have a good one.